Hello, and welcome to SEOcharity live stream with Amanda Wells and Anton Schulker. Today we are going to talk about reimagining EEAT, like the real one, and how ethos-pathos and logos supercharge SEO campaigns to improve CRO and drive ROI. So many words, and then tell us about the project, please.
Yeah, okay, guys, I'll just take a few minutes and I'll explain what the project SEO Charity was and is. It's 3 years old, or even more than 3 years old, and we started to do it to help cat and dog shelters in Ukraine. And currently we managed to help 5 small shelters. When I said small, it's altogether more than 300 animals in it, and they're kind of family style shelter. So cats and dogs are not in cages; they're just in flat. And in 2 houses and 3 flats. If you're talking about five projects, so 3 years old projects. We all together we managed to get $70,000, more or less, give or take. And right now we have 510 support. It's fluctuating, it's growing, hopefully. What does it mean, supporters? Supporters mean someone who donated at least once. We also have 66 regular donators. It's usually it's $10 a month, which probably won't broke your bank, but it really helps us to have, because we know what that money is coming. And I said we support right now 5 shelters. Not that we don't want to support more. We want to support as many as possible, but we don't have enough money to do that. Also, we made it to yeah, exactly. We made it a couple of times to Search Engine Journal talking about this particular one. And originally just started as a charity, and after that we decided it should be SEO charity, because any charity based on trust, because you won't just send money to someone you never heard about, and we hope to explode trust we already have in the SEO community, and we don't need to prove anything. But even everything is absolutely transparent. You can go and check where we send the money, when we receive money, and everything. Okay, so if you can donate. We have several possibilities. I'll put them in the chat. We also managed to achieve 2 cats were financially adopted, which means somebody regularly donates $35 a month, and for this $35, it's actually cover all the needs. So we managed to financially adopted 2 cats so far. If you want to adopt, just say in the chat, and I'll send you a link, and we can fix it. Okay, so yeah, that's it, guys, and please do, yeah, Alicia, Amanda.
In a couple of words about Amanda, our speaker today, the topic is a great one. Everyone loves Aristotle, and it seems that in this Plato vs Aristotle debate, Amanda is in Aristotle team. Amanda herself is the founder and director of Cedarwood Digital. If you have ever been to UK Search Awards, European Search Awards, wherever else, you might have seen them a ton of time on the screen and getting some awards for this or that campaign. So the name is very famous and in SEO and PPC and everywhere else. She has over 15 years of experience and worked really in very many niches and across many businesses and multinational corporations. And also Amanda is a regular conference speaker. So I think that I'm passing the word to you, Amanda, if you want to add anything to that.
Thank you so much, Alicia, and thank you, Anton, also for having me. I am over the moon to be here to support what is such a fantastic charity. So firstly, thank you so much for that. Yes, just a little bit about me. So I'm originally from Australia. I have 15 years experience in the digital marketing space, and I'm the owner of Cedarwood Digital. We are a performance marketing agency based in Manchester. It's very sunny today. As you can see, I've got my blind down, so it's not normal in the UK to be keeping the sunshine out because we don't get a lot of it, but I'm definitely trying to take advantage of it. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to chatting about something that I learned at school, which is quite a while ago now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting started.
Amazing. Just a moment, I'll share the presentation on the screen. And here I go.
Brilliant. So, as Alicia said, today I'm going to be talking about using Aristotle's ethos, pathos, and logos principles to maximize SEO impact. This is something that dates back to when I went to school. Like I said, it's a long time ago. It's about 20 years ago, not to give away too much about my age, but I've got a little tale to tell you to kind of kick off. So, I've told you a little bit about myself. But this is really where it all began. So, this is a picture of me when I was at school. Now, when I was home at Christmas, I said to my dad, I really want to do a talk about something that was important to me when I was at school. And I said to him, can you please send me a really nice school photo that I can show in front of a whole bunch of people? And my dad, being my dad, sent me this one. So that was me. That was me when I was younger. That was me when I went to school. Obviously, very enthusiastic about it at the time. And yeah, this was the best Christmas photo that my dad could possibly generate for me. So I guess thanks for that one, Dad. Really appreciate it. But the truth is, when I was at school, I wanted to be an engineer. So I did all the kind of engineering style subjects, as the maths and the chemistry and the English and the bits and pieces. But in Australia, you have to do 7 subjects, and I had a 7th subject that I didn't know what had to do. And one of my friends said to me, "Why don't you do philosophy?" And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. It was on a Friday afternoon. I thought at the time that's a good way to chill out. I'll have a really good time. I'll learn something. It'll be quite insightful. And to be completely honest, at the time, my Friday afternoons were pretty much made up of pros and cons lists about various men that I was dating at the time and what I was planning to do at the weekend. So, admittedly, I didn't really take my philosophy classes too seriously. But while I was there, while at school for the whole year, I learned about Aristotle, I learned about Epicurus, I learned about Plato and Callicles and Socrates. And ironically, what I realized when I started working in digital marketing is that actually everything that I learned at school, it was all connected. And these philosophical principles that I had kind of taken as an optional additional subject while I was at school actually played a really important role in what I was then going on to do in marketing. Now, you're probably going to say, okay, Amanda, what does Aristotle, someone from years and years ago, realistically have to do with SEO? Bit of a long drawn out kind of connection. But what I would say is that essentially SEO is about making sales, and in order to make sales, there's kind of 3 things that you need to do. So the first thing you need to do is you need to have a really great product. So you need to be or service if you're a service based industry. The second thing that you need to be able to do, especially critical in SEO, is being able, ensuring that people can actually find you. So, and then once they're actually able to find you, being able to persuade somebody why they should actually buy from you in a competitive market. So these 3 principles are very, very core to what we're doing in SEO. We're creating a great product and service, very, very important. We're working on SEO to help people find us. And then most importantly, we are convincing them, or we're persuading them to actually go and purchase our product, because the amount of drop off that we get in that conversion funnel when we're optimizing for SEO is really significant. So this last piece of the puzzle is actually very, very important from an SEO perspective. But the truth is that if you put that into sense, I would say it's creating a logical argument, persuading that argument by emotion, so emotionally connecting with your audience, and then backing it up with credibility. So you're creating a reason why someone should purchase or engage with you. You're persuading them emotionally to do so, and you're backing it up with credibility. So you're telling people, why they should do this. But I'm not the first person to say that, because ironically, Aristotle actually said this many, many years ago, and he said it through the principles of ethos, pathos, and logos. So back in the kind of days of ancient Greece, a lot of the selling and the persuasion was done through rhetoric, through talking to people, and a lot of the arguments were made through these three very core principles. So ethos would look very much at the credibility and the ethos. Logos would look at the logic and reasoning, so what the actual logic and reasoning was behind that argument. And then pathos played that very important role in building that kind of emotional connection and that empathy towards the person. And that really, a lot of the time, was what kind of got it over the line. And that's how we then start to connect Aristotle to our modern day SEO. If we look at that in a little bit more detail in terms of how these three principles really connect. So, let's look at ethos. So ethos very much focuses around credibility and authority. We do this every day in SEO through things like author authority, looking at reliable sources, things like testimonials, trust, reviews. These are all things that when we're, talking about SEO and the things we want to do on site, these are all things that play a very important piece of the puzzle. Even things like structured data play very much into ethos, because they're basically allowing us to kind of logically structure the way things are on the website and showcase that to Google quite effectively. We then obviously move on to the pathos side of things. So pathos is very much where we look at the emotional appeal. Now, from an emotional appeal perspective, this can be things like the urgency that we have in our call to actions. It can be things like the About Us page and the case studies page. And, this is where we really start to get the buy-in about us, telling people about your business, about your company, and getting them to understand why they love that. Thank you so much, by the way, Aman. I also love tying philosophy and SEO marketing together. I'm glad that we can all see the connection with that as well. And then also from a pathos perspective, really getting that kind of user-generated content. So getting people to kind of, connect with us from a user-generated perspective, and getting us to really understand on a human level, because fundamentally humans, they buy from humans. And the more human and the more emotional that we can be in our sales process, the more likely that we are to get that buy-in and that connection that we need to actually get across to our audience. And then the final part of the puzzle is essentially the logos. So logos, very much in the name, is the logical appeal. And when we're looking at things like logical appeal from an SEO perspective, that's things like our data-led campaigns, doing our A/B testing, our infographics, again, looking through case studies, because that's a very logical connection as well. And things like thought leadership. So all of that external and offsite SEO that we're doing, presenting those clear arguments and really allowing them to logically connect. Now, a lot of people would probably say, hang on a minute, that's just EEAT, right? And we all know that EEAT is the most overused acronym in the SEO world. We use it all the time when we're trying to explain things 24/7. But it's not, I would say, it's EEAT times 10, because it definitely takes the concepts and the principles of EEAT, but adds in one very, very important element. And that is the emotional connection that it builds between the brand and the audience. So in addition to building all of that valuable EEAT, which yes, we know is really important from an SEO perspective, it actually builds on the emotion. It allows us to connect with that audience directly, to bring the brand and the audience together, and to really start to get that emotional buy-in from an audience perspective. So let's look at this in practice. So I'm sure there's many of you here today that have researched a company online before buying a product or a service. And this is something that, I do it all the time, especially if I've not heard of the brand or the product before, and I want to check that, I'm not going to lose my credit card details, or that the product's actually going to arrive, or, anything along those lines. But I'm sure many people in this room will have done it. So let me give you some statistics. So 81% of consumers research online before they make a purchase. And typically, they take around 79 days of online research before making a high value purchase. So that's a lot of time for people to look around online, research, find out more about a company, find out more about a business before they actually go through and convert. But perhaps most alarmingly, 87% of consumers report that they will reverse a purchase decision if they read negative news or reviews about a business online. And from an SEO perspective, when we start thinking about ethos, pathos, and logos, this is a really alarming statistic, Because a lot of the time in SEO, we focus very much on the logical side of things. Where does this keyword rank? How much traffic are we getting to the website? But what we're not realizing is that actually, if people can't connect with us on an emotional level, or if they read something externally that they don't like or makes them start to feel negatively towards it, then all of a sudden, 87% of those people are going to reverse their purchase decision. And that's a really significant problem for SEO. And this really plays into why that kind of emotional element plays a very, very important part in our whole SEO journey. Trustpilot agrees. It says that positive internet reputation is the #1 factor that impacts company trust. And Google says exactly the same. So, in the quality rater guidelines, when it talks about the characteristics of a page, things like reputation and authority are mentioned a lot of times. So, we know that it's not just what people are looking for, but it's also the understanding that it's what Google are looking for at the same time. And I can already see in the comments that a lot of us say, we look on social or we're looking at the About Us page. We are, as humans, naturally looking to see, how can we make a connection with this product? How can we make a connection with this brand? And how can we actually understand that this is this is someone that we want to engage with, and someone that we want to get a product from moving forward. So to that end, I'm going to ask another question. How many of you Google yourselves? So this is something that I always feel really nervous to do. And I did from the start. Not that I've got any kind of dodgy history or anything along those lines, but you never quite know what you're going to find online. And the truth is that if you're not Googling yourself or you're not Googling your brand, then you have absolutely no idea what other people are seeing about you. You have no idea what other people are saying about you. And when we talk about that 87% of people that are going back out of the user funnel, we have absolutely no idea if there's actually a number of articles out there that are pushing people back out of that funnel. For any of you that don't know how to do it, it's really, really simple to undertake a search. So you can either undertake a brand search where you type in your brand name and then you minus the site away, or you can undertake an external review search where again, you type in your brand name and reviews and then you minus away the company. I try and do this maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks for my own brand. And then we try and do it a lot for our clients. And this just helps us to kind of keep abreast of what's going on and understand if there's anything that could potentially be harming reputation. And again, pushing people back out of that funnel, because I think that plays a very important role in building that connection up as well. So what I would say here is CRO is a very important part of SEO. And building ethos, pathos, and logos is very, very important in the conversion funnel. Fundamentally, we don't do SEO for keyword positions. We do SEO for sales. We do SEO for leads. We do SEO for business gain. And it's really important for us to understand that there's a lot of different parts that funnel into that ethos, pathos, and logos complement really, really nicely. So now that we've all spoken about Aristotle and you've seen an embarrassing picture of me at school, let's have a look at how we actually effectively use this to improve our SEO performance. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to look at it both from an offsite and an onsite perspective. So let's get started with offsite. So we know, back to our statistic, 87% of people say that if they read something they don't like, they're going to leave straight away. So the way that we're visible offsite from an SEO perspective is very, very important. We need to build our external reputation using ethos, pathos, and logos. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we really need to do is understand our audience. We need to understand who it is that's out there researching, where they're looking, and what they're looking for. What kind of information are they? And you almost need to put yourself in the shoes of a consumer. So if you were coming to a website for the first time and you're looking for a product or service, what is it that you'll be looking for online? Where would you be looking? You can do this in a number of different ways. So I tend to use this kind of 3-pillared circle to do an audit, let's say, or an evaluation of what's going on. So the first thing I'll do is I'll identify any weaknesses. So this is potential areas where I might be looking for something about the product or service and I can't find any information, because a lot of times not being able to find any information is as bad as the information being negative, because users don't have any way to kind of build that trust or that relationship. I'll then review the online sentiment to make sure that things work, that things are in a good and positive light, and identify any potential issues. And I'll also analyze media coverage. So again, I'll look and see if there's anything in the media that is of concern or anything that I can amplify from a very positive perspective so that I can make sure that I've got that exactly where it needs to be. And once I've done that, I'll then start to look at how I can address those barriers to conversion offsite. So the first way would be looking at how I can solve specific problems. So if there's specific questions that have come up or areas where I see that weakness in the profile, I'll look at how can I address that and solve those specific issues. The second thing I'll do is look at how I can address any doubts. So you will know for your product and service very well, even through looking through keyword research and understanding what questions people are asking, what doubts or concerns that they might have before they go into the conversion funnel. So you should be able to address those doubts quite well and quite clearly. And I will also use the logos side of things to feature logical comparisons. Because again, I know a lot of this is in the research phase. So once a user has decided on what product or service they want to engage with, it's all about comparisons. So I'll be looking at how I can compare my product and service to others in an effective manner. I'll also look at what stage of the funnel they're at. So are they at the top of the funnel? Like, are they looking for awareness piece? Are they at the middle of the funnel from a consideration perspective? Or are they potentially at the bottom of the funnel from a conversion perspective? Because this will play an important role in understanding what type of content I want to generate and therefore how I want to kind of tackle that audience off the back of that. And understanding our audience is not just important for us, it's also important when we're trying to get coverage and important links for the brand. So 92% of journalists say that understanding their audience is crucial for them to consider a story pitch. So this audience research isn't just of benefit to us in terms of understanding how we're coming across online, it's also of benefit to us to understand how we can then pitch ourselves and pitch PR and pitch the project to journalists to make sure that we're getting the coverage and, of course, the links that we want for the brand. So questions that you might want to ask at this stage are things like, what topics do they need reassurance on? What are they looking for in a trustworthy brand, i.e., where do you want to build your EEAT? And all of this together can really help you to understand how your external profile looks and also anything that you could do from an external perspective to help build and to grow it. So fundamentally, once you've done this, the next step is to put the brand at the center of the conversation and to kind of patch any of those gaps that you have. So if you've identified some gaps or concerns that you have, it's very much about putting out positive content, positive reinforcement, positive thought leadership, so that when people are searching for your brand, they don't fall into that bracket of being in the 87% of people that look at it and go, I can't find what I need, or I don't like what I found, and therefore I'm going to go back out of the conversion funnel. Let's have a look at this in practice from an offsite perspective. So there's a number of different ways that you can go about kind of filling these gaps or improving performance. And what it's worth saying is that at the same time that you're building reputation externally to help with your ethos, pathos, and logos, you are also building brand citations, you are also building links to the website, which is really valuable. And you're also building that external thought leadership and that trust and that expertise that is just so valuable from an SEO perspective. So first and foremost, thought leadership. So thought leadership is really when you put your brand front and center of the conversation. This is really, really valuable from both a logos and a pathos perspective. Thought leadership starts to build that emotional connection with the audience because it allows them to resonate and understand that you are, an expert in your sector, and that builds their confidence, that builds that relationship, and also builds the logical side of things because logically it explains to them that you are probably a good person to purchase this product from. I always say from this perspective that your client's expertise is one of your richest yet cheapest assets. And this also applies if you work in-house. So what you actually have to offer and your own expertise is incredibly valuable from a thought leadership perspective. To look at this with a couple of examples. So this particular example here, the client was a road traffic accident lawyer. And in this particular instance, they looked at fines that you could incur when traveling with a passenger or a pet up to £5,000 that a lot of people didn't know about. Simple things like not wearing a seatbelt or not strapping your dog or your cat in properly to the car can land you with a really, really big fine. The beauty about this piece was that it built trust, it built brand awareness and reputation, and also built some really, really valuable links. So this kind of approach for thought leadership really helped to tackle that whole ethos, pathos, and logos. It's starting to build that emotional connection. People are starting to understand about your brand. And also from a completely practical perspective, it's also building some really good links through to the product. Similar situation for a vaping retailer. Again, in this particular instance, what they did was looked at why you shouldn't take a vape on a flight. Fairly straightforward. I mean, it's pretty much banned here in the UK anyway. But they were giving information out to the audience to say, actually, this is something that's really dangerous and could be a potential risk to health if it could explode. So here are things to consider before putting a vape in your hand carry. This super high public interest. It also builds trust for the retailer because it showcases that they actually know what they're doing. In the UK, we have a huge problem with counterfeit vapes. So again, it's kind of tackling an issue that is rife in the sector. And it's also starting to build some really good links across those top tier dailies. Similar situation for a property retailer. So another issue that we have a lot in the UK is mold in homes. It's because it's so cold here all the time that mold tends to grow quite a lot. Not the last couple of days, thankfully, but I'm sure it'll be cold again soon. And what we did in this particular instance was we looked at the top 10 areas for mold to grow in the UK, and we mapped them out. And again, that helped to build brand awareness and trust for the brand, just to give an understanding of where it could potentially be an issue. And you don't just have to do it from an actual brand perspective. You can also do it by collating external information. So in this particular instance, we found that there were a number of energy grants available. So we recently had a price rise for energy bills. And in this particular instance, what we found was that we collated together all of the available energy government grants to help save thousands on bills, collated this external expertise and super, super high human interest angle. And yeah, exactly right. We've got such a mold problem that we really do need to be tackling that that cost of heating as well. But this built really, really good trust as well from that perspective. So this was a really nice approach, but also building that ethos, pathos, and logos. The second thing that we want to have a look at is newsjacking. So newsjacking is essentially where you put the client or your own brand at the center of the conversation. And this can be really effective when it comes to building external reputation, because when people are searching online, generally what they're finding in the search results is recent news, recent information. So newsjacking is very effective if you're trying to build that reputation, because this information is being found very frequently, very recently. In order to tackle this, you definitely want to be banking expert comments for when you need them. This is a really effective way to do it. And again, a couple of examples for this. So there's a medical law firm here in the UK that has an expertise in cervical cancer negligence. They created some comments around what to do from an awareness perspective, outreached it originally to a top tier publication just to make sure that you could that you can have that coverage. And then also they re-outreached it during Cervical Cancer Awareness Week, outreached it again they ramped up the HPV vaccine, and then outreached it again for Awareness Week 2024. So once you've got your set of comments, there's a lot of opportunity as to how you can outreach it, and you can continue to outreach that as you go. You can also marry your industry with a human interest angle. So again, if we look at a similar industry, what we find, and in this particular instance, we took it offline. So in addition to showcasing expertise about things that are actually happening, we have a really popular soap here in the UK called Coronation Street. I don't watch it myself, but it's been going for like 35, 40 years. It's very much, it's on 7:30, I think Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. It's a very popular kind of common soap that people watch. And in this particular instance, we saw that there was a medical mistake in one of the episodes. So we commented on it and showcased expertise that way. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that you don't need to just comment on something that's happening in the real world. You can also comment and showcase your expertise on things that are happening in a fictional variety as well, because you're still showcasing that you have the knowledge and the expertise, and you're still building that pathos and that emotional connection with your audience. You can also set up a reactive newsjacking strategy. We do it on Mondays and Wednesdays just to kind of get our team at the center of the news. And one thing that worked really, really well towards Christmas was a what we called a tiramisu draw reactive. So I don't know if there's many people here that love tiramisu. I love tiramisu. I'm a big tiramisu fan. And just before Christmas, a lot of people were turning entire drawers of their fridge into tiramisu. Now, don't get me wrong, sounds like a dream, but actually it is a nightmare from a hygiene perspective, because the amount of bugs and kind of things that can get in there, not ideal. So for a catering appliances client, we basically reached out and we said, look, we think this is an amazing idea, but here's the potential risks of this tiramisu trend. It was sweeping TikTok. Everyone was going crazy for it. Everyone was putting these in their fridge. And we just had to basically say to them, no, calm down. Please don't do it. From a tiramisu perspective, it's great, but also from a health perspective, it's not as strong. So again, a really, great opportunity to kind of get on the trend there, but in a safe manner, and some great links and coverage for the brand as well. Similar situation for a client in the printing sector, where we looked at printing boarding passes. So many people might not know, and I didn't know this actually until we did this, that if you don't shred your boarding pass after you get off a plane, it can be a bit of a security risk because it's got a lot of personal information on it. Now, I've never shredded my boarding pass in my life. I've always just kind of chucked it in the bin or left it in the airport, or, not really had much of a consideration for it. But actually, if you don't shred your boarding pass after you utilize it, someone can go in there and can steal quite a bit of data from you. So there's hopefully a good piece of information that I've shared. But also in this article, we basically rounded up all the different airlines, and we looked at the costs of not, basically printing that before you get to the airport, because some airlines, like I think Ryanair and Jet2, can charge you up to 50 quid to print it at the airport, which is pretty terrifying as it is. I completely agree. Tiramisu doesn't last that very long in my house either, to be honest. In fact, it barely gets itself in the door before I've demolished it. Not gonna lie. The other thing that you can do is you can use free data sources to build a brand and also to build links. So there's lots and lots of data sources out there. And when we come to the kind of logos side of things, the logical side of things, data-led campaigns, they do play a really important part in this. They're showcasing the logic behind why someone would want to purchase your product or service, because they're showcasing data behind your brands or your products. NHS Digital, Instagram, the Office for National Statistics, Google Trends, Statista. I mean, there's tons and tons of free data sources out there that don't cost the earth, that you can analyze to give a really good insight into your industry and also to showcase your expertise. And once you've done that, if you're able to visualize data in a way that journalists love, then you can get that covered. And when people are searching for you externally, they can find that information. And again, it really helps to build that external reputation. A couple of examples where this has been done well. In the vaping sector, FOI requests around illegal vapes. Again, massive issue that we have here in the UK. For this data piece, FOI requests were submitted to all of the councils in the UK to understand where it was the biggest problem. And you can see from the heat map kind of where that problem is. This got featured in The Sun and a range of top tier publications. And again, really good trust builder for the brand itself. And the visualization, the data visualization really helped to kind of showcase the brand and the trust, and journalists love that kind of thing as well. Similar situation for medical legal clients, analyzing CQC reports. So that's reports from the Quality Care Commission. Again, really showcasing that sector expertise and understanding and generating some good leads, really strong from a lead generation perspective, looking at where the best and worst rated GPs were in England and kind of showcasing that information externally. Super big human interest angle. And from a PR perspective, again, anything with a human interest angle gets picked up really well. You can also build your own data set from research and analysis. So we did a piece which actually analysed, we have another soap here in the UK called Emmerdale. It's very similar to Coronation Street, except the difference is that Emmerdale's set on a farm and Coronation Street is set in a pub, or more like a street with a pub on the end of it. And in the every year, Emmerdale has a Christmas special, and every year in the Christmas special, they basically kill someone off, or something dramatic happens. I think there was a plane crash one year, then there was a tram crash, and then someone got murdered. There's lots of things going on. So what we did was we looked at the odds of who was most likely to be killed off in the Emmerdale Christmas special. And we did a ranking system from 1 to 5, utilizing the data that we had available. And we looked at things like, age, how long they'd been in the show, what the kind of reason was. And we analyzed it against kind of the last 25 episodes to see what the theme most commonly was. And it was always a middle-aged man who'd had a romantic bust up with someone, and then something off the back of that had happened. So that's kind of what we analyzed. Again, we outreached this utilizing our own data, and landed some really good top tier links off the back of that as well. So again, it's a really nice way to just use your own data. I mean, I know you've made the point there in terms of making your own website more responsive, but it's a really nice way to utilize data that you have to kind of build those links and authority as well. But digital PR isn't just an off-site task. It can also be an on-site task. And when we talk about a content perspective, we're looking at things like, expert articles that we have available, case studies that we have available, and also the way that we create guide style content and hubs on the website to get people to actually come to the website and understand our content. We focus a lot on content clusters from an on-site perspective. So a lot on kind of building out content pillaring to make sure that we have all those kind of EAT connections. But what about outreaching these to boost visibility and showcase our expertise, essentially utilizing the work that we've done to build this amazing content and also showcasing it externally from a thought leadership perspective? A good example of this would be a focus area of hip and knee replacements. So we were working with a client who very much wanted to focus on hip and knee replacements. This was a big area for them. They did a lot of claims in this particular sector, and it's a very big issue that we have in the UK. There's a big waiting list for hip and knee. So they wanted to put together an article and outreach it so that they had good visibility in the market around it. So we created this really nice hub on the website that showcased a lot of information, a lot of data. Again, it kind of built that logos because the pathos really, and well, to be fair, it built the ethos, pathos, and the logos because it had, the information on the website. It was very trustworthy. But then also it was able to connect with people that were in a similar situation because we had a lot of case studies. So people could come onto the website and they could look at someone that was in that situation and they could say, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, that's something similar to me. And what we did through this process was we created some really great content. We amplified it. So once we created this content, we outreached it to journalists to get people talking about it and understanding that kind of content. And then we utilized digital PR to drive links to that content to get it to be essentially promoted, which meant that when journalists were looking for information about the topic, they started coming to the website and looking at it. The result of this was that when people were searching for queries around this, our particular web page and our website returned. So when people were doing that research and they were looking for it externally, they were able to find the information they were looking for and view us as a trustworthy source on this particular topic. It also brought a whole ton of website visitors, so nearly 10,000 website visitors over a 6-month period for people that were looking to find out more information. And it really helped to establish and grow the brand as an expert in that sector, building that awareness, building that emotional connection, building that trust with the audience through really, really effective on-site content, but leveraging the off-site side to it as well. So building 10,000 new users, bringing that awareness out, helping the on-site SEO content, so getting the SEO and the digital together, and then building that reputation in a sector that was really, really important for the brand. So kind of ticking that box as well. The moral of this particular bit is to use your SEO team. So from an offsite perspective, working closely with the on-site team, making sure we're identifying what that really effective content is. By taking that content and leveraging it externally, we're building those ethos, pathos, and logos signals, and we're really helping people to start connect with the brand, particularly around areas that are of importance to us. Bringing people to a website, like I said before, means nothing if they don't convert. So we need to make sure that everything that we're doing, both on-site and off-site, is driven to make that emotional connection and to keep that in mind. So now let's have a look at on-site. So from an on-site perspective, give your audience what they're looking for and back it up with trust and expertise. And at the same time, of course, we want to make sure that we have an emotional connection in there. Now, the best way to give people what they're looking for from this perspective is through matching user intent, because user intent really dictates why someone's come to the website in the first place and what it is that they are looking for. So user intent, for definition, is the purpose or goal behind a user's search query. And matching this user intent really helps us to build ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, there's 4 different types of intent, and there's probably a lot more in all fairness, but these are the main 4 that we categorize. So you have informational intent, that's where someone's looking for information and they're very much researching and they're looking to kind of understand a little bit more about the business. There's navigational intent, that's where someone's looking to go to a very specific page or a specific section of the website. So they've already probably done a bit of research and they want to look at something very specific or something that's unique to them. We have transactional intent. So this is where users are ready to make a purchase or complete a specific action. For example, buying running shoes online. And then we have this commercial investigation. And this really ties back into that 87% statistic that I pulled out before. So this is where users are researching products or services before making a purchase decision. So normally with commercial investigation, what you find is that people already know what they want. They've already identified what it is, but they're actually just researching those products or services in a little bit more detail so that they can understand that before they go ahead and they make that purchase. And that really is where that pathos comes in. So building that emotional connection and then logically explaining to someone why they should choose your product or service instead of a different one. So in order to tackle this and to make sure that we're matching intent, the first thing we want to do is align our content with the user intent to build an emotional connection. And there's a number of ways that we can do this, but one of the most important is understanding how we want our content to be presented. So what type of content do we want? So is it a blog post, a video, a category page, about us page, whatever the case might be? What format do we want that content to be in? And a good way to look at this is looking at what format it can be in terms of top ranking pages. So be things like a how-to guide or a list or anything along those lines. And then an angle, we're looking at the specific focus or unique kind of selling point of that page. So these are the 3 things that we really want to be thinking about from a content perspective when we're actually tackling the type, the format, and the angle. To put this into practice, a couple of examples. If you're looking for information on filling out a tax return, you will probably want content produced by an expert in accounting. But if you're shopping for tax preparation software, then you would probably want to look at a forum discussion or reviews. So even though you're looking for a similar thing, you're looking for tax support, depending on what you're looking for and how you're looking for it, would allow it to kind of showcase in a couple of different ways. And if the purpose of the page is to give out information or offer advice, then we know from YML guidelines that a high level of expertise may be required for the page to be trustworthy. But in contrast, some pages, particularly on YML topics, are created to share personal experiences. And this is where the experience element of EEAT comes in. So sometimes in these instances, people, they don't necessarily want the expertise-led answer. They actually want to turn to each other for their own experience. And factual information in this particular instance might not satisfy their need. Now, Google gives us a couple of examples of where we might want to kind of attack things slightly differently. And the main contrast is between experience and expertise. So I explained about the filling out the tax forms and where you might want a little bit of a different approach. But there's also other areas where this approach could differ. So, for example, sleep challenges where pregnant. If you're having difficulty sleeping while you're pregnant, there's maybe 2 different approaches that you want. In some instances, you may just want expertise. So you might just want to understand, okay, I'm having trouble sleeping while I'm pregnant. What sleep medications can I take that are safe during pregnancy? But on the flip side of that, you might want to actually have an experience. So you might want to say, right, I'm not interested in sleep medications. What I really want is to hear from someone that's been here and done it and they've experienced it. And what are they doing now to actually, what worked for them, what's worked for other people. And that's when you tend to look more towards your things like your user generated content, your new videos. And that is a massive, massive push for pathos. because experience is that super, super relatable content. So safe and non-medical tips and tricks for sleeping the last trimester of pregnancy, provided by people who have personally struggled with that challenge. And that really, really helps to build that content on an emotional level. So if you are looking to kind of showcase these signals, then sometimes you need to consider a mixture of experience and expertise in the way that you put the content across. Similar, if you're looking at how to vote, this is really topical. We have elections here in the UK tomorrow. Sometimes from an expertise perspective, you will want information about who's eligible to vote or how to register to vote. But sometimes from an experience perspective, you might just want something from someone else to understand why they feel like they want to vote, or what the process is from a very simplistic perspective. So getting the contrast between experience and expertise is important, especially when it comes to kind of building that pathos side of things, because it plays an important role. But it's also important to understand that user intent changes over time. And it's very easy to kind of think, okay, users want something now, but a year or 2 years down the track, that user intent could change. If we look at one of the popular SERPs in the UK, so the payday loan search, and we evaluate it over the last 12 months, we can see that in this period of time, the SERP similarity is 17. That basically means that it's completely changed. It's 15 changes in the top 10. Massively changed over time. So user intent, or what Google has deemed to be the suitable user intent, has changed over that time. We also, when we look at it, it looks chaotic from a SERP perspective. So we can see that virtually every result that used to be in the top 10 has gone down, and there's a whole load of new results within the top 10. If we dig into this in a little bit more detail, and we use the Ahrefs intent match tool, which again is in beta, so taking it with a grain of salt, we can see that back in 2023, the intent match was very much for financial assistance. So that was people searching for payday loans who are looking for financial assistance. And then now in 2024, it's very much about short-term loan options. So exploring those kind of short-term loan options. And there's a very, very big difference between the two. Although they might seem like a similar thing, they're different in terms of product. And what we're seeing in the search results is that on the financial assistance side, it's at websites that are targeting payday loans. And on the short-term loan options side, it's websites that are targeting short-term loan options. And that's why we've seen such a significant shift in the SERPs. So when we're talking about targeting user intent, it's definitely important to be keeping up with what's happening with user intent so that we know exactly how to match that accordingly. And this is where we start to think about the logos, because user intent is a very logical side of things. And logos plays a very important role in allowing us to match user intent. But ethos and pathos are very key to getting conversion over the line. So in addition to having that logos, when we're focusing on SEO optimization, we need to incorporate these two concepts alongside our user intent. So how do we appeal from an emotional perspective? Well, the first thing that we can do is to start with a story and to get buy-in from your audience. And there's a number of brands that do this really, really well. So one example is Six Stories. Six Stories is a bridal brand that was founded here in Manchester. It was founded by a girl after she got married, and she handmade some tutus for her bridesmaids. And then she decided that she wanted to create a brand, a feel-good brand for women and men when they were getting married, to have this really amazing clothing and feel great on their wedding day. She talks about it on the About Us page. She talks about it, in her story. She's actually on Instagram kind of sharing her story, and they're very viral on social media. It's very easy to buy into a brand like this because they're very visible and they're showcasing their story and they're building that emotional connection. Similar situation with Cassart. So Cassart is a retailer of painting products. Again, on their About Us page, they're talking very much about their history. They've been around for over 100 years, where that family history's come from. They're allowing you to kind of buy in and understand their story. And that's playing a really important role from that perspective in allowing you to understand, okay, why might I want to purchase from this particular retailer in preference to a different one? Case studies are also a really, really great way to kind of understand, where it is that we need to go and kind of build that emotional connection. You can go on to see a case study and you can say, okay, actually that person's just like me. These people might be able to help me because they were able to help them. or that really resonates with me. I build that emotional connection. Case studies are a fantastic way to kind of build that emotion and to get people to start thinking about your brand in that way. And finally, user-generated content. I mean, user-generated content is just brilliant in terms of connecting with your audience emotionally, because you see people using products, you see people, doing things, you see people having experiences, you see people, and it's raw and it's real a lot of the time with the user-generated content. So it's incredibly relatable. So this is a very, very powerful asset for your website when it comes to building that pathos side of things. You can also build emotion through written content. And the way you can do that is by explaining benefits and not features. So let me give you some examples. If you were going to get some headphones, like I have here, a feature could be that they're wireless, but actually the benefit is that you don't have any more tangled cords. And that's great, because for the short time that I've been here, this cord has actually already tangled. So actually, I would love a pair of wireless headphones right now. And the benefit for me would be that I don't have to sit here with a tangled cord. There's also things like meal kits. So a meal kit, a feature could be arrives ready to heat, but actually realistically, it saves you time preparing meals. Air fryer, everyone's got one of those these days. Benefits a removable basket, a feature's a removable basket, but actually from a benefit perspective, it's easier to clean. I mean, and that's a dream. So there's lots of different things, lots of different ways that you can write about content. But if you're able to showcase the benefit and that resonates with someone and they go, oh yeah, actually, do you know what? That really would benefit me. That's how you're able to build that connection on an emotional level. And again, you're starting to push conversion through that way. You can then establish credibility with your ethos. So we talked about logos from a user intent perspective. We talked about pathos and emotion from an about us and a case studies perspective. And finally, ethos is about establishing credibility. There's lots of ways that you can do that online. You can do it through expert commentary, authoring, content pillaring, guides, FAQs, videos. There's tons of ways that you're able to showcase. And this is really where the EEAT comes in. And you can really start to showcase EEAT off the back of these. You can also bring something new and unique to the conversation. So when you're talking about this, we're looking at things like information gain for LLMs, because we know that large language models, AI, ChatGPT, all of those elements are becoming a really important element in the search sphere, let's say. And when it comes to building the logical side of things, in addition to building content that resonates with our audience from an expertise side of things, it's also about that kind of information gain from an LLM, so targeting search that is outside of Google. At the most basic level, what I would say with ethos, pathos, and logos is, are you solving a user's problem? So are you solving what someone is looking for? And remembering that key statistic that 87% of people, if they find something they don't like, or if they don't find what they like, they will leave a website. So it's very, very important from a conversion perspective that if a user has a problem or a concern, that you're able to resolve that very, very quickly. So a couple of final thoughts that I want to share. Digital PR is far more than just links. It's about building that reputation, that external ethos, pathos, and logos that is very important to the conversion funnel. And it's about making sure that 87% of people that could get turned away if they find something they don't like aren't put in that position in the first place. And secondly, SEO is more than just rankings. It's about conversion. It's about business return. It's about getting that success, those leads, those sales that we need. And conversion optimization and ethos, pathos, and logos plays a very important part of that. Bringing people to a website, and I've said this a few times, means nothing if they don't convert. So at the end of the day, we don't just want to bring people to the website. We want them to engage and love your brand and have a really, really good reason to go through and fulfill the conversion journey. And that's a wrap on Aristotle, I guess we could say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amanda. It was wonderful and a great dive in. And I didn't know lots of these things. Just a moment, I'll take it away. Okay. Hi, it's
it's my dog Ted.
Yeah.
He's so cute. Oh, bless him. That's the look he gives me when I come home from work every day. I like come in the door. He just looks at me like, "Where have you been all day? Give me a walk and feed me."
Yeah, and
What
it's all absolutely unconditional. Yeah, yeah. Some people don't read their dogs very well, and they still love them. Yeah, which is surprise. Cats, they don't do it like this.
Oh, bless.
Yeah. I've
Uh,
got a couple of questions, if possible.
sh-
Or Anton, do you want to say something?
yes, I wanted to just say we got $125 donated during the talk. So $125 is more or less like a we calculate $35 per animal per month. So you can so it's about 4 months for one cat or one dog, which is fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you, Amanda, like lots of what you were telling us was based on the data that we can mine from this or that tool, analytics tool, our website, or wherever else in the age of AI when people just got their responses from the chatbots. And we see now that there are AI agents that will do shopping for us. And I've seen that the papers where they say optimize your ads for the AI bots because they will be now watching the ads. Uh, with that said, what do we as marketers and SEOs should do to implement those principles in our campaigns or in what we optimize for? Because people will be searching with AI bots and chats, and we won't have any information from them. How much they search, what exactly they ask, nothing, absolutely vacuum.
It's a little bit scary, isn't it, to be completely honest? And I feel like because when I was saying to people about googling themselves, I also chatbot myself in terms of like trying to work out what chatbots are saying about me or about Cedarwood in general. And what I find most concerning is it seems to be a different thing every time. So I feel like with Google, you get a fairly static set of results. And when you're doing that analysis around, okay, what do I need to do to kind of improve my, my visibility or the way people see me or my reputation, you've got a good basis to work with. With AI, it's definitely a different ball game. I think there's two things that we do really. So the first thing that we've done recently is we've learned to love Bing a little more. Previously we've focused very heavily on Google, and particularly ChatGPT takes its content from Bing. So if your content isn't indexed in Bing or it's not available on Bing, then ChatGPT in particular can't access it. So we've been doing a big project to try and ensure that we have all the content that we need visible on Bing. Which is something we'd not done previously. And, admittedly, it's probably been a bit of negligence on our side. It's just because the market share has been so small that we've not really put much focus towards it. But one of the first things that we've done is, try to improve our visibility there. And I think the second thing is large language models, particularly to my understanding, they feed off new information. They feed off this information gain. So as a brand and as a company, we're just trying to put more content out there to allow the large language models to crawl our websites more frequently, to kind of pick that information up and to try and give it as much relevant information as we possibly can. And that's really the best approach that we feel we've got right now to try and control how our reputation comes across on AI. And it's definitely not reassuring in terms of the way that we do it, because the reality is the AI could say, to be fair, whatever it wants. But that's the two, I guess, main approaches that we've taken to trying to caveat that, or to try and manage it best we can.
You were also talking about the reviews and like other things that are connected with reputation, and reputation in the age of AI is like maybe the most valuable assets maybe that the company or a person might have, just like in old days. Should SEOs be really devoting lots of times to tracking reviews, responding to them? Should they know a lot about that? How SEOs are and reviews, and where SEO is in this, I don't know, relation or connection? So what SEO should do about reviews and how they should build their work around that.
So I definitely think, and we have this conversation with a lot of clients, that every brand should have a good external trusted review platform. I actually spoke to a client yesterday, a potential client, who the only place that they had reviews was on their website. And I said to them, no, I think you need to have an external trusted platform, because people can often be dubious about reviews that are just on the website alone, because the reality is anyone could write them, anyone could put them on there. There's no element of quality control, although there's not a massive element of quality control on there, so that's an issue. But I think really, as an SEO, it is in your best interest to be explaining to brands why it's important for them to have external reviews, why it's important for them to have control over that, and also why they should be using. So that search command that I gave, where I said about kind of putting in your brand and reviews and then minusing your brand away, it's not just the kind of Trustpilot and FIFO, it's everything else as well. And I think to the point as well, like, even though SEO shouldn't be the one directly responding to the feedback, they should definitely be the ones flagging it with the brand if they feel the brand aren't doing it adequately. We find a lot that if one of the brands we're working with has a couple of negative reviews consecutively, it really hits our conversion rate. So it is in our best interest to be saying to them, guys, you really need to respond to that, or guys, you really need to kind of pick that up. Because it's in our best interest, again, from a conversion perspective, to get them to do that.
Yeah, but probably negative reviews. It's not a tragedy. In a live chat, Amon Jones said, so negative experience happens. The question is how company deal with that. This is a very important. And actually, when I see the review and all 5 stars or 4.5 stars, and not a single negative, I think it's all fake, because it's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a couple of bad reviews. Like, not everyone is going to be happy. I mean, like I said, even as an agency, not everyone's always going to be happy with us. We always try our best, as all, products and services do, but it's not going to work for everybody, just as every product isn't going to suit everybody. So I think it's healthy to have a number of reviews in there that are responded to in a positive manner. I definitely agree. If I see someone with just 5-star reviews, I get very dubious. Although I know there are filters on things like Trustpilot and FIFO that can allow it to just show 5 stars, which kind of freaks me out a bit. But yeah, I just find it as dubious myself.
I think if we had reviews for SEOcharity, we'd have only 5 stars. Absolutely sure.
That's an exception.
And back to Amon Jones, he wrote that he wants part 2, what Nietzsche taught me about landing pages. And Amon, I'm happy to do that with you. We'll call it Thus Spoke Amon Jones, and continue with that. So if you're up to that, let's do that anytime. When you are ready, I'm too. We should maybe wrap it up.
Scarily enough, I did actually study Nietzsche as well.
Oh.
With Aristotle.
So
he was on the list for my year 12 reading.
We can have both of you then.
Yeah, we'll have both of you. It would be just fantastic. So, Amanda, we're kind of wrapping up a bit because we are a bit more than an hour already. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that? Where to find you? When are you open? What you are open to, and all these kind of things.
Yeah, sure. So the best way to connect with me is just on LinkedIn. Amanda Walls at Cedarwood Digital, and I'm there 24/7.
Okay. Anton, do you want to say anything before we end?
No, Amanda, thank you very much. Alessia, thank you very much. And today, Almon John, King of Live Chat. Thank you very much, Almon. And thank you for your donation. And if you're watching it in a recording, please do donate. It helps us to help those people to save those animals, if it makes any sense.
Even if you don't want to donate or don't have this capacity, you can just share our streams, and the more people know about them, the more donations eventually we have from other people. Thank you so